Hello, hello. I'm Tamara, a tax doula with today's tax tip. Today's tax tip is going to stray a little bit off the beaten path, and I'm going to share some information with you that I received from the IRS. Now, I get these regular newsletters from the IRS, and they give you information that you need to share with maybe taxpayers or that you need as a tax preparer. And one thing that's always included in this is a section called News from the Justice Department's Tax Division. And in this section, they'll tell you about a case they had against someone, typically a tax return preparer, and whatever activity they committed that caused them to get in trouble with the Justice Department. And there was one that stood out for me in particular because at the end of the day, it costs a lot of money. Like the penalties are really, really high when you commit fraud against the government when it comes to tax returns. So I'm trying to wrap my head around this information and it stood out for me. So I just want to share a little bit of it with you. Originally, when I was going to record this message, I was going to share with you the name of the tax company, but I realized that the name was so generic that there might be another tax company out there with the same name, and I didn't want people to get distracted by that and, blame the wrong organization because they have the person's name that was convicted, and I didn't even want to include their name, but this took place in the federal court in Louisiana. So this is a company out in Louisiana. And it seems like this individual was convicted of preparing over 2,600 fraudulent income tax returns between 2019 and 2021. So they were convicted of preparing over 2,600 fraudulent income tax returns. So in April of 2023, the court said that this particular tax preparer and their company, they were barred from preparing any additional tax returns. However, they violated that injunction and they continued to prepare returns for others. So they were found in contempt of court and mandated that they reimburse the United States for the cost of litigation and travel expenses um, to handle this case. Now, it does not say how much money the United States lost as a result of these fraudulent tax returns, but I can guarantee you that every dollar of income that they believe that they lost as a result of this person not filing these tax returns correctly, I can guarantee you that that person now has whatever penalties that they would have gained as a result of this activity on top of owing the government money. Now, there's another case here as well that they list that shows that there were two tax return preparers, a man and his son, who were barred from ever being tax return preparers again. And it alleges that the two prepared false federal tax returns false federal tax returns through their company, which I'm again not going to name because there could be another company out there with a similar name. And in this case, it says that they repeatedly understated the customer's tax liabilities, right? Causing the United States to use substantial tax revenue. And now the Justice Department is asking the court to make these defendants pay whatever money that the government lost as a result of not preparing those tax returns correctly and not turning over those fees that were due. Now, it's interesting in this particular one because the customers said that they never gave these two individuals any reason to believe that the information that they were submitting to the IRS was correct. So here we have two examples of the type of fraud that's committed. With the first one, it says fraudulent income tax returns, but we don't actually know specifically what that person was doing. So it's possible that it was legitimate fraud, that they meant to get over on the IRS, but it's also possible that they were just doing something incorrectly. And, I understand that this is one of the reasons why sometimes people don't want to have others do their tax returns, because they may not trust them. They may think, what if they make an error? Then the government's going to come back and look at me. What I can say is, when you're filing your tax returns, one of the things that we tell taxpayers is that the information that is submitted, at the end of the day, it's on you. And you are responsible for making sure that the information that you give your tax preparer is correct and accurate. Because if anything comes of it, and your records have to be looked at, and people really don't get audited as much as they think they do, not the average person, but it's really up to the taxpayer to do two things: to hire someone that you trust. That's number one. And before you sign that tax return, make sure you're reading it. Read it and make sure you're understanding exactly what that information is that you were saying that you agreed to. And if you're reading it and you're knowing this is not true, this is not what I told them, this is not what I said, then don't sign it. If they're not handing in information that's accurate that you gave them, then don't sign it, and they won't submit it, and then you can help prevent this problem. So that's my tax tip for today. Make sure you're hiring someone that you trust, and make sure you're reading that tax return before you sign it and it's submitted to the IRS. I'm Tamara Wren, your tax doula, and this has been today's tax tip.